Hi, this is Jim, and I'm going to do a quick wrap up of most of the markets here. On the S&P, the 1010 bands, these are the 1010 bands up here, and then below we just got our just a regular chart. Um, the bands are like moving in a straight line here, and the S&P is making a strong bull swing higher, so odds are with continued higher prices in the S&P. It doesn't look like there's no reason to expect lower prices in stocks. There could be pullbacks, but right now the stock market is in a strong uptrend, and that looks like it will continue. Now the dollar, last week we kind of looked at how it made a double top and on bearish momentum, and it basically made this double top and it's broke below the 1010 bands. So this market looks like it will continue lower. It's trading below the bands. As long as it's below the bands, I expect it to continue lower for every market in general. This is the way the bands work. If it's below the bands, you just gotta figure that it's going to keep going lower and until proven otherwise. And right now the dollar looks like it's going to continue lower. It's in a downtrend. It looks like the rally's over for the dollar. It had a nice rally, but that's probably over with now. And gold's looking bullish, as we'll see when we get to that chart. And so if gold's bullish, then the dollar's that puts the odds with lower prices. Now cocoa, this is a beautiful chart here. It made this bull move up off the low, and then it came down and tested the 1010 bands, and now it's moved up again. And today was a little bearish day, but again the bands are moving up. Cocoa is just in an uptrend, so we got to expect higher prices in cocoa. Now if it were to come down and close below the bands or trade below the bands or something like that, or do something else on some other technical indicator, then we might think that cocoa is heading lower. But for right now, everything looks good for higher prices. Now coffee is probably coming down and testing this last low. It could make a higher low. There's no reason it can't do that. So coffee could be at a low, but I think the worst coffee will do is come down and test this low and make a double bottom and then probably move higher. And again, especially with gold prices heading up, that's bullish for the softs. So I think that most of the softs are going to be heading higher in general, but coffee could come a little lower first. Sugar had a down day today, but it came down to the lower 1010 band, and again the bands are up. Sugar traded above 3 bars above the 1010 bands, which means this market is in an uptrend, and there's no reason not to expect sugar to continue higher from here right now. If sugar were to break down in this area somewhere, then maybe it would come down here and make a new low, but right now the trend is up in sugar, and we got to look for higher prices. Crude, I think what's going to happen in crude is excuse me, crude kind of made it like a double top, and it's come down off resistance, but it looks like it's consolidating. And I really, again, with higher gold prices here, I expect crude to go higher here. Now this is an area you would start looking for a sell signal, since the bands are kind of hooked over, and crude's kind of trading below the bands and everything. But what I think this is more like is a bull flag here, kind of just a sideways consolidation before higher prices. So I'm expecting higher prices in crude. Now if the market heads lower, we'll have to change, I'll have to change my opinion on that. We'll have to look for lower prices, but right now I think it's best to look for higher prices in crude. Now gold is the one that usually if you can get the direction of gold and the dollar right, pretty much the other commodities will follow along. In general, a bullish gold is bullish for the sauce, the meats, grains, and right now gold looks extremely bullish. I mean, it's come here, it's put a couple bars above the 1010 bands here. The bands are in an uptrend, so there's no signal at all that this market is even thinking about turning over to bearish. And now we've had another 2 bars above the bands, and today's an up close at the end of the week. Everything looks bullish for gold. I mean, I see no reason to think that this market's going to head lower in the near term. I mean, there can be short-term pullbacks along the way. There's no reason, to think that it can't make a couple, 2, 3 bars, a bull lower, a bull flag, something like that. But the trend's up in gold, and again, until proven otherwise. That's the way we got to do on these markets. We just got to go with what they're telling us, and then if it doesn't play out that way, then we have to change our opinion as soon as possible. Lean hogs, um, that's in an uptrend, and it came down and made a bearish day yesterday, and today it popped up a little bit. So again, I think this was just a test of the uptrending bands, and I think it's going to continue higher. Again, what I would look for on this is if it moves above this bar's high, yesterday's high, then that will be confirmation of an uptrend. If it would close below the bands and start moving lower, then that would mean that the rally's over. But right now, odds are with the upside, and that's what we got to go with. Live cattle, pretty much the same picture as lean hogs. They normally trade pretty much together, but that's not, again, that's not always the case. But usually if lean hogs are going up, live cattle will be too. And again, live cattle, the 10-10 bands are in an uptrend. The bars have been above the bands, which is a sign of strength. And yesterday and today had a little kind of 2-day correction off the high, but that's just a correction in the uptrend. These markets will always have these little minor pullbacks on the way to higher prices. So I'm expecting live cattle to continue higher. If it were to take out the bands and put in some other sell signals, then we'd have to look for lower prices. But right now, live cattle looks higher. Okay, the grains are looking bullish. And if gold continues higher, most of these markets will continue higher. I know I've said that about 3 times, but gotta say something, right? Anyway, I'm just kidding. Corn made a double bottom low here, made a bull swing, made a higher low, and now it's traded above the bands, so everything's bullish for corn to continue higher. Now, there's always the possibility when it starts to rally that this could be making a lower high and then move down here and test the low again. And that could still happen, but right now, with everything that's going on the chart above the bands, and the bands are showing an uptrend, we got to stay bullish corn. So corn looks higher. Beans, same picture. Beans look higher. From what I remember, I looked at the charts real quick earlier, and from what I remember, beans are pretty much, came down and made a little higher low, which is a test of this low, and beans are back above the band, so that's all bullish. Now what I'd look for here on beans, again, this could be, sometimes they come up and they test the last high and they'll come back down here and make a double bottom, and again, that's a possibility in beans here since it hasn't taken out the last high yet. So if beans can take out this, the 1-3 high, that will be confirmation that the trend is going higher. Right now, I would say that it's going higher because it's above the bands and the bands are in an uptrend. But if beans were to break lower from here, they'd probably come down and test this last 112, January 12th low. So right now, odds are with the bull side for beans, but again, we got to be careful on all these. February is generally a bearish month for the grains, but that can play out in a number of ways. And it doesn't always hold true. If they made the low in January, that's pretty close to a seasonal low anyway. So we'll look at wheat real quick, and we're almost done. So really, to looking back on it while we're waiting for this chart here, is just mostly everything looks like it's heading higher except for the dollar. And if gold continues higher, everything probably will continue higher. Of course, the wheat chart all of a sudden stalls on me. Well, let's just wrap it up because this chart, my computer might have locked up a little bit here. Basically, wheat is pretty much the same picture as beans and corn, and oats is pretty much the same as wheat. So right now it's just bullish for the grain. Sorry. So the computer locking up goofed me up a little bit here, but just basically the markets in general are bullish, and it looks like higher gold, higher softs, higher grains, higher meats, and it looks like continued lower prices for the dollars. And that'll do it for this week. Thanks for listening to my video. Jim Robinson, ProfitTrading.com.